The desert sun beat down on the dusty military base, shimmering off Humvees and ammo crates. A squad of SEALs leaned against the wall, laughing about nothing and everything, the way soldiers do when the quiet between missions feels too heavy. But then the laughter died down slowly, as every pair of eyes turned toward the gate. She was walking through, a woman in a tan T-shirt, her uniform dusty, her right leg bandaged and bleeding through white gauze. She moved with metal crutches, one step, and then another, silent, steady, unflinching. The men looked at her, then at each other, smirking. To them, she was just another injured soldier, someone who couldn't handle the weight of war. They didn't know who she was. They didn't know what she'd done. But they were about to learn. And by the time they did, every one of them would stand in silence, wishing they could take their laughter back. The wound beneath the uniform, her name was Sergeant Laura Carter, 35, combat medic, and one of the few women embedded deep with special operations units. She wasn't supposed to be there that day. The doctors had told her she'd never walk again without pain. But orders didn't matter to Laura. She had promises to keep. The SEAL team had just rotated back from a high-risk mission in the Kandahar outskirts. They were young, proud, and battle-hardened, but arrogant. When Laura crutched her way past them, one of them chuckled. "Guess not everyone's built for the field," he muttered. Another added, "Bet she tripped on her makeup kit." Laura didn't say a word. She just kept walking, past the mockery, past the sting of shame. But there was no anger in her face, only focus, because she knew something none of them dared. The mission they were celebrating had only been possible because of her. Flashback. 3 weeks earlier, a convoy had been ambushed in the desert. The sails were pinned down by heavy fire, communications jammed, and medics scattered. Laura had been flying in a backup chopper when she heard the distress call. Ignoring the command to stay out of the red zone, she'd ordered the pilot to land half a mile out. Crawling through dust and gunfire, she reached the wounded, dragging bodies out of burning vehicles one by one. She had no backup, no cover. A sniper round tore through her leg, but she still went back for the last man. The SEAL commander himself, unconscious, bleeding out. She stopped the hemorrhage with her own belt, carried him on her shoulders through gunfire, and called in an air evac using a broken radio she rewired in the sand. The commander lived. She didn't even tell anyone her name when she handed him off to the medics. And now, weeks later, that same commander was standing just a few meters away, laughing, unaware that the woman they mocked had saved his life. When the truth walked back that afternoon, a meeting was called in the hangar. The commander, now fully recovered, stood in front of his men, holding a folder. His tone was serious. "We're here to recognize a soldier who performed extraordinary heroism under fire," he began. "Someone who saved one of our own." "Me." The men straightened up, curious. Laura was in the back, leaning on her crutches, quiet. The commander continued, reading from the report. "Under intense enemy fire, with one leg shattered by a sniper round, this medic carried me half a mile to safety. She refused evacuation until every man was accounted for. When she reached base, she collapsed from blood loss." The SEALs looked at each other, realization slowly dawning. Then the commander turned toward Laura. "Sergeant Carter," he said softly. Front and center. Every boot in the room snapped together. She crutched her way forward, the sound echoing like drumbeats in the silent hangar. The same soldiers who had laughed now stood at attention, shame written across their faces. The commander stepped down and saluted her, a full, sharp salute, his eyes heavy with gratitude. "Ma'am," he said quietly, "I owe you my life." Laura looked at him, her voice steady. "You don't owe me anything, Commander. Just remember, never underestimate the wounded. Sometimes, the ones still standing are fighting battles you'll never see." The hangar stayed silent. A few of the SEALs looked down, their pride broken, their respect rebuilt. One of them, the same man who had laughed first, walked up to her later, eyes wet, and said, "I'm sorry. You deserved better." Laura smiled faintly. "We all deserve respect. That's how we stay human out here." As she turned to leave, the camera would linger on her bandaged leg. A symbol not of weakness, but of endurance. The sun outside was setting, painting the sand gold. And as she stepped back into the light, even the toughest men on base stood watching. Not out of pity, but out of awe. Because sometimes, the bravest warrior isn't the one who fights without scars. It's the one who keeps walking. despite them. True strength isn't measured by how loud you fight, but by how quietly you keep going when no one believes in you.